So I don't actually know. I don't actually know for sure, but it sounds like you have a Gatorade, and I'm super jealous.
It's a water. You should not be jealous.
Nope, I'm not.
I have a game running in the background. I can just like exit out of it, but I figured if it's not audible, I won't exit out of it.
Is it a mining game?
It is Minecraft. How do you know?
I meant mining.
Oh,
like mining, but that, it's the same thing. That's fine.
It's quite literally a mining game. If I'm logged into an area where time ticks, it produces resources for me that I can use later on. So I just stay logged in the my dwelling.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to quote a commercial. I'm going to quote a commercial you may or may not have seen. You remember when Kmart was trying to make that comeback with the commercials, and they were like trying to get away with using bad words within the commercials? I'm going to link it in the podcast description here, but they were talking about how what was the phrase they kept using? Oh, shipped. I just shipped my bed.
Oh yeah.
Instead of like shit, and then one guy was like, I shit my pants and it was very convenient. I'm just sitting here thinking like the whole Minecraft thing you're talking about, like it was very convenient. No, but going back to the drinking thing, like you ever just hear like a bottle of something open and you're like, fuck Gatorade, or like whatever it is that you're craving right in that second.
Yeah.
That's what happened when you opened that bottle of water.
And then it was just water. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyways,
I noticed that's another thing too. Like your name here in the virtual room is Schwes. You've been adding a lot of schwaz or shuz to the beginning of your words. What's going on there?
I think I was probably just inspired by it being Schwes. And then I said anyways because I do have Zencaster like open up looking at it.
You're not looking at Minecraft anymore.
No, I only momentarily opened up Minecraft so I can look at me sitting there while I explain that I was sitting there.
Got it.
As far as Schwes goes, I mean, I could make up an excuse and be like, it's just my last name and my first name together. But no, I new computer, it had me name myself again, and I'm like, Schwes.
Dude, I didn't fucking think about that at all.
I swear to God, Lois.
Lois, I swear to God. I didn't even think about that. Holy shit, Lois. It's a really bad Peter Griffin impression. We need to go to the we gotta get to the segue like right now.
Quick to the segue.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're tuning in from across the country and around the world. This is the Life Midwest Podcast. Not really a show about nothing anymore. We're here with a purpose, folks. I'm Kevin Palmer. That's Wes Shirley over there. What are you doing?
What? I just said hi. I'm so confused.
What are you doing? You know, that reminds me. Okay, hold on. Can I just say, you know what that reminds me of? Remember when so Wes used to work a lot of fast food jobs back in high school, and he used to work at Wendy's. And I specifically remember, I'm gonna start crying. I specifically remember this story about when he was going through training, and he kept screwing something up. The guy training him was just like, "What are you doing?"
I think I kept putting like too many pieces of bacon on the tray or something, and then like letting it burn, not on purpose, but like, oh, yep, there was meat in the oven. Sorry.
So there's this voice in my head when he does that of like, what are you doing? I don't know. Maybe you just had to be there. Wes, how's life? How's everything going, man?
It's going. It's our first episode of the season that isn't the old format, so super exciting.
No, it feels like the old format when you bring in a fucking kazoo.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
This is going to be an editing nightmare. How's work going? How's the dog containment business going? It just feels good to talk about and ask about the dog containment business again.
It's okay. It's our slow season because like no one wants to even deal with dogs in the winter. It's like stay inside and use a toilet instead of taking them out to like do their stuff. We do that, right? In the winter, dogs use toilets. Either way, they don't really need us during the winter all that much. So it's been a bit slow, but um, it chug along. It do its thing.
I'm not in the dog containment business, but I do have the two dogs, and let me tell you, they are being dicks right now about playing in the snow. And by being dicks, I mean I let them out to go potty because they ring the bells, and they go out and they go potty, but then they just sit there and stare at me, and I know what that stare means. It means I really don't want you to ask me to come inside, and if you ask me to come inside, I'm just going to continue to sit here and stare at you until you let me play because I love snow. And it sounds funny, it sounds comical, but until you are at your back door with it open, standing in it, it's 10 degrees in t-shirt and underwear, and you just want your fucking dogs to piss and come back in, it's not so funny anymore.
So they don't use toilets, or they just go outside to play? I'm really confused.
They're not toilet trained. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe that's, you know what? Maybe all of this is my problem, and it's nobody else's. So, when it's your slow season, I mean, do you have time to get other things done? Like, are you put on like multiple like side projects to kind of like consume your time, or?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of time to get all the computers upgraded. I feel like I've talked about this previously on the show that I was allowed to upgrade some computers in the office. So now every computer that an employee would use for their daily task are upgraded to current speeds. No more crying to the customer, "I'm sorry, my computer don't work." So we got that taken care of. And then, yeah, a lot of other tasks. Generally, if business is slow, they have to justify labor. So they're like, all right, do this, which is like generate some revenue for us, call out, see if people need help, whatever. Um, Not too much of that, but a little bit of that. And it's, it's a job, It's not like they're just going to let us sit around because we're slow.
That can get annoying because sometimes you end up doing things that are definitely not a part of your job description. I mean, in your case, you end up getting to you want to talk about things that aren't a part of a job description. How about the fact that you got to upgrade computers at a dog containment business? I mean, I'm sure computer repair and upgrades was not a part of your job description when you first signed up.
It was not. My job description was like customer service. I'm pretty sure like the whole description was customer service.
Ma'am, I'm sorry your dog ran away, but did you use it? Did you use our product correctly?
Yeah, pretty much. Somewhere along that line.
So, and I mean, on the flip side of that coin, though, you probably find yourself, ending up doing things that again, not a part of the job description. But definitely shit that you don't want to do. And I'm not talking about like stupid shit like taking out the trash either. Am I right?
Yeah, I don't get that so much at my current job, thankfully. But I've had jobs in the past where it's like, all right, we're slow. We're doing a full call of all of our contacts. Get those phones ready because you're cold calling today. And it's like, like, I don't want to do that. People are supposed to be calling me. I don't want to call out.
You are one of the best cold callers I know, though, because you used to work at a company that did surveys, right? Are you able to talk about this a little bit? You feel good talking about this?
Oh, yeah, they went out of business. I can say whatever I want about them, I think.
Okay, great. I just remember one of our old friends. You used to be very, very. You were so good at it because you would talk about how you'd call and say, "Good afternoon, sir or ma'am. My name is William Shirley, and I'm calling to blah blah blah." I mean, while you have our old mutual friend be like, "Hey, you want to take a survey?"
Yeah. So at that job, oh my god, I don't know if they've like restructured, renamed, or just moved out or completely went out of business. I would imagine they went out of business because like the internet, you can just distribute surveys much easier. You don't have to call people and be like, "Hey, we're asking questions for this company. If you sit on the phone with me for 15 to 20 minutes," which then turns out to be like 30 to 40 minutes because the old person on the other side of the line is like, "Well, let me think here. Back in my day." And it's like, "Oh my God, I just need to ask you if you like Coke or Pepsi."
Oh God.
But yeah, we had to call people. Like random people, phone numbers that were generated from people selling people's phone numbers. Like, not great practice as far as like getting a hold of people. So no one wanted to talk to you. They're like, "How'd you get my number? Did little Timmy tell you my number? That little shit." Like, and and then like we had to respect the do not call list. So a big part of our job was just like putting people's on the do not call list or making sure that we don't call anyone on the do not call list. It was an auto dialer, but people would be like, "I'm on the do not call list. You're not supposed to call me." And then every once in a while, someone would take a survey, which just astonished me. Like, who would waste their time to tell someone about something that is so irrelevant to their day in life and then maybe get like $5 if they complete it after 45 minutes? Yeah, I do not miss that job. Have you had a bad job yet? Like a job you just absolutely hated?
Not really a miserable existence, but I mean, I did have a point where I had points in certain jobs where it felt like, you ever watch the sitcom Superstore? It only had like 2 or 3 seasons on NBC.
I've come across that. I haven't watched it though.
Okay, the store manager Glenn is like a total ditz, right? And he's just like, "Oh, hi, my name's Glenn, and welcome to Cloud Nine." And he just doesn't really have like any control over anything that's going on. Like, he just, like, whatever happens within his four walls, he just kind of fucking accepts and deals with, and doesn't really have a whole lot of control over situations. I have felt that way before about a boss or two, but I've never had like a job where I'm like, "Oh, this is ass."
So the reason I asked that, and I've had a couple of those jobs, and I've had jobs that, and I've stuck with a job that's been like that for probably 5 to 10 years in the past. There is a movement happening currently in the world um, about labor. Basically, employees are feeling that they are overworked, underpaid, overwhelmed. A lot is expected of them outside of working hours. A lot is expected of them during working hours. They feel like they get treated unfairly. And we've seen stuff like that happening recently. Since we're talking about current events on this season, have you heard about Kellogg's?
Yeah, I am a little familiar with that situation with the strike, right?
Right. So, about a year ago, maybe it wasn't that long ago. Let's say about a year ago, I discovered this subreddit called Anti-Work, and some people might be aware of the recent interview that Fox News had with the Anti-Work um, moderator, I guess. Someone who moderates the sub makes sure that the content that comes through is on brand with Anti-Work and follows their rules and guidelines and whatnot. And on this subreddit, the whole point is they either have bad bosses, bad employers in general, or they feel treated unfair, or they feel like they're not valued at work. And people will just tell these outlandish stories. I have to assume some of them are probably just for karma. If you're not familiar with Reddit, it's like it's an upvote basically. You get karma for participating, which then lets you participate in more things. So like you can go onto a subreddit, find kind of the cookie cutter example of who posts on that subreddit, what the post should look like, and you can just make a compelling story. But the general theme is work sucks. I don't like doing it. And while I'm there, I get treated very unfairly. And this is like, I don't know, like people read fiction and nonfiction. People read novels, stories, autobiographies, whatever in their free time. This is like what I read in my free time because I find it massively interesting, but also I agree with a lot of it. Now, keep in mind, I work a job and work a side job and have been known to work more than one job at once. And while I don't like working, you have to do what you have to do. So while my views might align with these people on the internet who don't want to work, it's kind of unrealistic to like fully take on that mindset. Just F it, I won't work. Well, that's how you starve. And there's been a lot of worker movements that have spawned from that or has had inspiration from that. The Kellogg's strike, for example, as we may know, the union, they went on strike with Kellogg's up in Michigan here in the Midwest because they didn't feel like they were getting paid fairly. They didn't feel like they were getting what they were worth. They're putting in a lot of money. They're the reason that people are eating Kellogg's cereal at home, Frosted Flakes or whatever. Um, and as a worker, nothing gets done without you, and it's kind of asinine to get paid so little that you can't live a life that is worth living. So they went on strike. They're doing bargaining, collective bargaining. They're asking for higher wages for the work they put in so that the corporate level or the CEOs, the executives, um, they make all their money because these workers work. And it's kind of an unfair balance when they can't even live a normal wage. So we saw a lot of support for them on anti-work subreddit. Basically, when Kellogg's decided to fire the whole union and hire laborers, anti-work kind of came to the rescue. They're like, well, shit, we're going to do as much damage to Kellogg's as possible. They were doing recruitment drives. Everyone apply for these positions, waste their time, go through the interviewing process just to leave afterwards and never return. Get trained the first day just so they have to do all the legal and like paperwork and filing and everything has to be right, and then quit. Just really ruin their lives, waste their time. Their shit company don't work or don't help them in any way. In fact, hurt them. And eventually it turned into a bunch of unqualified people getting hired for the sole purpose of trolling. And, you know, like they derailed some trains off the track. They destroyed a very expensive machine in the or in the warehouse. And eventually the union and Kellogg's finally came to an agreement. Get these assholes out of here. We need qualified workers and we will pay what we need to pay to make this happen. They were losing way more money from being greedy than they were making from not being greedy.
You know, the internet, it really is an amazing and powerful place. And Reddit itself is like, yes, there's a side of it, right, where there's it's the internet and people post their opinions. But I feel like what's really great about Reddit is people share their experiences too. And that's, you know, going back to what you said earlier about like that's something that you read and that's your entertainment. I totally understand why, because I feel like that's how you get other life experiences from other people. Honestly, and I don't want to completely derail it here, but I think that's what a lot of people see within TikTok too. Because a lot of, you know, there's different types of TikTok, right? Like there's music and then there's animals, you know, whatever you're into. And one of the algorithms that Ashley has kind of fallen into is story TikTok, where it's just like somebody telling a story about something that happened to them or something that's wild. And I feel like Reddit kind of does that too, as far as like sharing experiences or sharing things that happened. But it's really funny and it's really interesting to see like what kind of impact a website on the internet can have on a major corporate conglomerate.
Yeah, for sure. We've seen it with GameStop too. that was also
GameStop.
Yeah, where they skyrocketed their stock for short trading.
Yep.
The internet's a powerful tool. It lets us get together and cause mayhem if we feel that it's necessary or something worth doing.
Yeah. And to bring it back to the point that you were talking about, Wes, as far as like, you know, people feeling overworked and underpaid, and you know, I feel like that's been a growing trend of like of something that's been happening in our society, especially here in the West, like Western civilization, I mean. And I think that what you've seen from one of the things that's kind of been born from the pandemic is people kind of standing up to that, I feel like, and seeing this, no, things actually need to change. Like, we're not just talking about it anymore. Like, things actually need to change at least a little bit, at least here and there, at least, you know what I mean? Just something's got to give eventually, right? Coming up, we're going to talk more about voting with your job. And yeah, you do have a choice of where you go. Stick around. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast.
Hey, hold on. We have a new sponsor this episode. Aren't you tired of just always doing the same sponsor?
I mean,
don't you want variety in your life?
I guess.
That's right, you want variety in your life. And that's why today, this week's sponsor is brought to you by the sound
Your kazoo is going through puberty.
That's why this week, our episode is sponsored by...
Thank you.
Is sponsored by the sound...
Thank you, Wes. Thank you. Welcome back to the Life Midwest podcast. On the other side of the break, it's your host, Kevin Palmer, Wes Shirley. If you're looking for ways to support us, we do have a PayPal that is live and set up because it does cost money to run the show. PayPal.me/TheLifeMidwest. There are plenty of free ways to support us as well. You can always reach out to us at any of our socials on all major social platforms at The Life Midwest. You can also email us at support@thelifemidwest.com. You can also leave us a review on your favorite listening app. We appreciate that as well. iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're able to do that. I actually was listening to someone else's podcast and somebody worded it that way, and I was like, I'm going to steal that.
And then he yoinked it.
And then I did, yeah. So no new emails to read to you this week. We do want to talk a little bit about the My Friends series that is going to continue for season 2. We're working on that for you. We're going to probably average one episode a month with that. We are almost ready to announce who is going to be our guest for February. And I'm pretty excited because I think it's going to be a riot of an episode. So circling back to what we were talking about before the break, Wes, just kind of talking about people. I feel like there's this interesting concept, and maybe I'm just fabricating this in my own head, but people kind of like voting for jobs, like voting kind of where they're going to work or voting with their job. I don't know if there's like a better phrase or better way to coin that, but you understand what I'm talking about. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think that echoes strongly how I feel with like the reason I spend so much time reading through anti-work on Reddit, because like, you know, I've had bad jobs. I do want to live at least a somewhat resistance-free life. I want to live a life that I don't feel stress and I don't feel like I'm struggling the entire time. And there's people who, because you don't own the means of your freedom, maybe you don't own land or equity in land, maybe you don't own the means of production, maybe you have no way to make money outside of someone telling you to do a task and paying you to do it. I've been exploited. I don't like people being exploited. And I think we're able to come back from that. We've done it in the past with the Gilded Age, like we started making laws and rules where employers can't harm their employees so much anymore. Like we don't have 7-day work weeks. Miners aren't working. Well, like people who mine coal, I guess, work, but like miners, young people aren't working in hazardous conditions or like at the age of 10 or 8 or whatever. We do have miners working at like 15, 16, 17, but like the 40-day work week, having OSHA and stuff like that. That's 40, all because
the 40-hour work week.
Did I say the 40-day work week?
Yeah.
Just end me right now. I don't like to just take sides. I always like to kind of be impartial here. And I am friends with people who own businesses, small businesses, and I'm related to someone who owns a small business. And I understand how hard it can be to make a good life for yourself when everything's kind of set against you. And the places to cut that fat or to trim and make more on the margins would be to exploit your employees and treat them lesser, I suppose. And I can't say I would never fall into that because I'm a human, and given the circumstances, maybe I would do something like that. I just want everyone who hears this, everyone who's listening, to be able to look at current events, be able to predict the future based on what's happening. Do you think your company is going to do well in 10 years if this year your employees are quitting left and right? Like, maybe, but those employees have voted with their actions to not help you make money. They're saying, well, screw you too. And they've went elsewhere. So like, I would like to find a happy median where everyone's getting what they want to some extent. Take out some of the greed, take out some of the crippling stress that comes from above, our rules, regulations, how society is built upon. And it's just people pitted against people because they're in bad situations, because they're stressed, because they're desperate. If your cost of living is going up as an owner, but your raise gets eaten into by paying your employees more, maybe your employees don't get so much of a raise. And again, I'm not, obviously you don't need to own a yacht regardless. Like, so like if you're that type of rich and your employees are struggling, go F yourself. But other than that, the lower level people, the people that are our friends and our family, and the people who care about us as humans, but maybe don't treat us as humans as far as when we're working for them go, all of those people, I want you to hear that like your actions are powerful. You can choose not to be in that position. And if you're an employer in that position, you have to know you don't own your employee. They're not your slave. And we're seeing this happen in real time here in our lives, where employees are like, yeah, we're not your slave, and then they leave. And then you're stuck doing all the hard work yourself because you didn't want to pay them a little more.
And there's this old school mentality, and it's very quickly dying, but there's this old school mentality of people are replaceable. You can always put somebody else in their shoes and train them, and they're more moldable maybe, or they're more at will, or they're a yes person or whatever. That's just not happening as much anymore because of the people voting with where they go. They're voting with their choice of where they work. You're seeing that a lot more now, where you don't have just a slew of people who are looking for jobs at all times. And so, to Wes's point, I think that there needs to be an equilibrium, and I think we're starting to work towards that a little bit. And I think it's going to be painful. I think it's going to be rocky, and I don't think it's going to happen uniformly and all in one time. But at the same time, Rome wasn't built in a day either. So, stay strong, and just remember, if you're on the other side of this, and we've touched on this a little bit, during the pandemic, and the how there isn't like a shortage of workers. There's a shortage of people willing to work for shit wages. You have the ability to impact someone's life. And I think that's something that I remember as a former district store trainer for a Fortune 500 company that I won't name, but they paid their people minimum wage. And there was this old school mentality that a lot of other managers and other stores had of, oh, they're easily replaceable. But if you're spending all this time reinvesting your time and your energy into retraining these people, how much are you actually succeeding as a business owner, as a store manager, as somebody running their own four walls? How well are you actually doing, instead of just rallying the troops and saying, you know what? I know this isn't the best paying job in the world. I'm going to be grateful for you being here every day, and I'm going to work with you, and I'm going to help you develop and maybe get you into a position that isn't minimum wage. So even if your hands are tied, I guess what I'm saying is, even if you feel like your hands are tied, you can always promote growth, and you can always promote people to want to do better just by being a better leader, just by being a better boss. We obviously don't have time to go over this today, but I think in a future episode, I'd like to spend time kind of talking more about my experiences with this, and kind of sharing those all with you. And maybe you're in a position of power listening in, and you want to see, maybe you can't impact the wages, but you can do something about work mentality or mentality at your workplace.
Are you familiar with Frederick Douglass?
I am.
Huh. All right. So do you know what the Seneca Falls Convention was?
I do.
All right, so the Women's Rights Convention in 1856, 40, somewhere between 1840 and 1870.
Most people would say mid 19th century, but you just have to have a date, don't you?
I don't know. My brain's really weird. It's like, you don't know math. You're terrible with numbers. Numbers elude you, but go for something specific so you sound dumb. So yeah, late 19th century. There was a women's rights convention, and Frederick Douglass, a very prominent abolitionist of the time, black, which is important to note because at that time, black people were slaves in the U.S. and he was not a slave. He was a working politician. Spoke at the Seneca Falls Convention and said, I support the women's rights movement, and I support every movement that works to better humanity and make the people who are oppressed less oppressed. And I'm paraphrasing. This is not a great quote, but the point is, we have famous historical people working with other movements because they believe at the time, and I believe today, that improvement for anyone who's being oppressed is improvement for everyone. Everyone benefits from that. If you look for good things to happen to people other than yourself, good things will probably come your way. You don't have to look at it that way. It's not like, oh, I benefit regardless, but it is good that other people benefit. It's not all about us. It's not all about the individual. Everyone needs to thrive if you want healthy, happy, and friendly community.
Right. Because Frederick Douglass may not have said this, but what goes around comes around. And on that note, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been really fun because we are way over time. It's time for those shout outs. Wes, who you want to shout out this week, buddy?
I just want to give a warm, heart-filled shout out to. And I would also like to shout out mothers because, you got to shout out those mothers. Give them a call. Let them know you love them.
Call your mom.
Maybe drive over to their house. Maybe visit them. Hop on a plane, travel across the country. Just be like, hi, Mom. Also, shout out to the people of Anti-Work Reddit. We recently had one of the moderators on Fox News, and it was just a crap interview. So right now the subreddit's down. Shout out to everyone who's waiting for their mix of fiction and nonfiction literature online. And a shout out to workers, because we don't have everything we have in this world without workers putting in the effort. So you're worth something, you're valuable, and you can vote with your actions.
Yeah. I mean, think about what we do. I just sit here on my computer talking to a microphone. What am I doing for people? Oh God, am I having an existential crisis? Shit. Well, on that note, also want to shout out moms, particularly my mom. Radiation's going well, for those who know. So radiation's going really well. Really positive vibes there about that. I want to shout out my 2 dogs for being extremely quiet during this recording session. I also want to shout out workers. I want to shout out anyone who's ever worked for me, because I'm a really, really weird person to deal with sometimes. And I don't mean from a boss standpoint, I mean from a social standpoint. So, if you've ever laughed at one of my shitty jokes, or, just tried to cheer me up even though you don't think I'm as funny as I should be, I appreciate it. You know what? I'm not going to say that. That's stupid. It's stupid, Wes. I don't know who I'm going to shout out this week.
Have you considered shouting out?
You know what? And how can I forget, last but certainly not least, I'd like to shout out. Thank you. Right on cue. I love it. I love it. Folks, we're going to get the hell out of here. Thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to call your mom. Reach out to us at our social platforms, or drop us an email at support@thelifemidwest.com. We will see you guys next Saturday and every Saturday here on the Life Midwest podcast. Take care. Have a good one.
Deuces.